and Deputy Director General from the same bureau, Mr. Ji Yuhua, to talk about banking, insurance services, and online services. Today we also have with us Chief Physician Wei Wenbin, Dr. Wei Wenbin from Ophthalmology Department of Beijing Turing Hospital. First of all, information on the epidemic. From 0 to 24 o'clock on February the 23rd, the 31 provinces, regions, and municipalities and Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps reported 409 new confirmed cases, 150 new deaths, with 149 in Hubei and 1 in Hainan, and 620 new suspected cases. On the same day, 1,846 new cases were cured and discharged from hospital. 16,758 close contacts were released from medical observation, and severe cases were reduced by 1,053. As of 24 o'clock of February the 23rd, according to the 31 provinces, autonomous regions, and municipalities, and Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps, the number of existing confirmed cases was 49,824, with 9,915 being severe cases. The cumulative number of cured and discharged cases was 24,734. The cumulative number of deaths was 2,592. And the cumulative number of reported confirmed cases was 77,150, with 195 repeatedly reported cases corrected by Hubei province. The number of existing suspected cases was 3,434. A total of 635,531 close contacts were traced, and 97,481 close contacts were still under medical observation. In Hubei, the number of new confirmed cases was 398, with 348 in Wuhan. New cured and discharged cases were 1,439, with 772 in Wuhan, and the number of new deaths was 149, with 131 in Wuhan. The number of existing confirmed cases was 45,054, with 35,674 in Wuhan, of which 9,430 were severe cases, with 8,329 in Wuhan. In cumulative terms, there had been 16,738 cured and discharged cases, with 8,944 in Wuhan, and 8,946 in Wuhan. 2,495 deaths, with 1,987 in Wuhan, and 64,287 confirmed cases, with 46,607 in Wuhan and 195 repeatedly reported cases corrected. There were 450 new suspected cases, with 318 in Wuhan, and the number of existing suspected cases was 2,770, with 1,877 in Wuhan. In cumulative terms, a total of 112 confirmed cases were reported in Hong Kong SAR, Macau SAR, and Taiwan region. 74 in Hong Kong SAR, with 12 discharged and 2 dead. 10 in the Macau SAR, with 6 discharged, and 28 in Taiwan region, 5 discharged and 1 dead, except Hubei. New confirmed cases 12, and new suspected cases 170, new death cases 1. Severe cases reduced by 55. Except Hubei province, 6 provinces, new confirmed cases were at or below 3. 24 provinces and Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps has no new confirmed cases. From 21st to 24th of February, Gansu, Liaoning, Guizhou, Yunnan, these 4 provinces adjusted the public health emergency from level 1 to level 3. Shandong and Guangdong adjusted it from level 1 to level 2. And the new confirmed cases for 5 successive days was less than 1,000 across the country. And for the existing confirmed cases, is showing a declining trend in the past week. For all the provinces, newly cured and discharged cases were either bigger than or smaller or at the same level of new confirmed cases. So there have been phase-by-phase results for the epidemic prevention and control. A good trend has manifested itself, and provinces and autonomous regions and municipalities are adjusting the level of response of public health emergency response to restore work and life order. Also, from the 22nd to 23rd of February, China WHO novel coronavirus joint mission had a site visit in Wuhan. The mission visited Guanggu district of Tongren Hospital and Wuhan Mobile Cabinet Hospital, and also the joint mission conducted investigation on the epidemic prevention and control in Wuhan and had exchanges with the local experts there. On 23rd of February, the joint mission in Wuhan sent feedback on the joint mission to the National Health Commission, making recommendations. China will continue to improve the epidemic prevention and control mechanisms and the public health emergency response mechanism, and continue to strengthen its cooperation with the WHO. That's all for the epidemic prevention and control information release. Now the floor is open for questions. Please identify yourself before asking questions. First of all, the journalist in red at the first row. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm from Xinhua News Agency. I have a question for DDG Peng. Now, financial institutions are taking their own initiative to provide food and catering industry with lending support. Some enterprises are getting a lot of financial support with low interest rate. Is it the earmarked re-lending funding from PBOC? And does PBOC has other supporting measures or means to help the prevention and control of the epidemic, to help them to resume production activities? Thank you for your care about the provision of financial services in epidemic prevention and control. We have a lot of means and instruments to do the support, mainly 4 levels. First of all, 300 billion relending, since it has very favorable interest rate and has a financial subsidy. So this is a wartime policy to have emergency rescue. Therefore, it has very strict scope. It must comply with the provisions of the financial document number 5 of this year. And the second level of policies is the debt policy for the existing debt of enterprises. This time, due to the epidemic, many enterprises, especially SMEs, are having a lot of difficulties of operations. Their cash flow has been affected. However, the existing stock of debt of the enterprises is very big. Every month, about 1 trillion yuan of debt becomes mature. If they are asked to repay the debt, then their cash chain may be disrupted and broken. Therefore, in document 29, if because of the epidemic, enterprises find it difficult to repay, then the banks should extend the maturity date. And thirdly, to increase the existing support of lending. Now have made very positive progress in the epidemic prevention and control, and enterprises are resuming production activities. They need to import materials and pay salaries for employees. They not only have the debt need, but also have the financing need. So we'll use financial inclusion policies to incentivize banks to increase financial support for the enterprises, and at the same time, we ask them to lower the interest rate and lower the charges for the financial services.
Fourthly, to optimize the loan structure and improve the service efficiency, we noticed that for the micro and small enterprises, they have difficulties, so we offer policy preference and increase the extension of long-term loans. And also, the financial support is not only of a large quantity but also of good quality. So we request the banks to provide concrete help to the small businesses. We are also constantly refining the above-mentioned policy measures. The real economy and the financial sector are working in parallel and support each other. So it is necessary for the financial sector, especially the banking sector, to help the real economy. Just now you mentioned banks are providing some low-interest loans to the catering sector. I think this is just what I have mentioned. Next question on the left, on the second row. I'm from Economic Daily. Some lending policies are quite flexible, especially with the local financial institutions, and they offer to extend the loans. And what are the potential risks on the financial sector itself or the banking sector itself? Another question is, some banks refuse to provide such extension. So what about the state-owned banks? How can we encourage them to provide more support? Thank you for your question. Indeed, the shareholding banks are adopting flexible approaches to extend the lendings to the clients in difficulty. I think this is a good approach, and such measure is conducive to the businesses and also to the recovery of the economy. In terms of the risks, I think it is fair to say that the fundamentals of the economy are sound, and the businesses are also soundly operated. So such favorable policies are conducive to both the banking sector and the businesses. Furthermore, with the overall planning and arrangement of the CPC Central Committee and the State Council, the banking sector is well prepared to provide such favorable policies, and we do have the adequate capacity to address the potential financial risks. As for the risks for the businesses, I think we should adopt an objective approach. Some companies are faced with temporary difficulties because of the epidemic. However, the basic fundamentals of their operation are sound. So we should help them, just like treating a disease. We help the companies, especially when they are in mild symptoms or in small difficulties, and give them help as early as possible to prevent potential worsening of the situation. For some major banks, they may have a fairly long decision-making mechanism, and I think for the banks or the banking outlets at the grassroots level, they should be assured that this is the overall policy, and for loans to individuals and small businesses, such loans can be extended in order to deal with the epidemic, and banks are independent market players, and you just need to follow the overall policy direction, and you don't need to wait for the detailed policy measures from the regulators. Furthermore, the banks at the grassroots level should also be brave to take the responsibility. You should investigate into the specific cases, and don't be afraid of accountability. I'm sure your superiors will give full consideration to the work that you have done, and as regulators, there won't be any post-event punishment for the flexible approaches. So you just need to consider the situation on a case-by-case approach. We are fighting a war, and this is just like to fight a fire or put out a fire. So just follow the policy direction and keep the evidence to justify your approach. That's all. Thank you. Let's continue. On the left, on the second row, the first reporter. From People's Daily. Recently, Premier Li Keqiang repeatedly emphasized that a sound resumption of work and operation should be guaranteed by offering more favorable financial policies. So could you please elaborate on the details? Mr. Peng, to answer your question. I can see you are following very closely the earmarked funding. Recently, we have received a lot of questions from the media concerning these earmarked re-lending, and Vice Governor Chen Yulu and other senior officials of POBC have already responded to the questions, and I'm not going to elaborate on the details. I just want to emphasize that we've already set up a full monitoring system for such earmarked re-lending, and there are 3 milestone indicators that we are watching very closely. The first one is whether these companies or businesses are within the scope of the number 5 policy document. And the second milestone indicator is the favorable lendings. The banks are the first responsible institution. The banks should ensure that such lendings are used for epidemic control. Also, POBC has set up an electronic lodge system to monitor the use of such funds. Thirdly, once the businesses receive the loans, the financial sector, the Bureau of Finance will also monitor and make sure that the funds are properly used. And also we share information with the auditing authorities.
The auditing department is involved in the whole process for supervision to ensure fair and justice in the process of lending. In daily routine monitoring, if there is irregular information, then we'll provide the information to the auditing department, which will ensure that the size of the favorable loans and the actual situations of the enterprises. We have noticed the attention paid by the media. We will increase the transparency of the policies to take our own initiative to receive your oversight so that the funding can be used in the most needed places. Thank you. Second row on the right, the journalist. The gentleman there. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm from Oriental Satellite TV. We know since the outbreak, some insurance companies have donated insurance products or policies for healthcare professionals, but due to the epidemic, healthcare professionals cannot sign on site. And does that procedure is compliant? And how many insurance policies have been settled? I would like to ask Mr. Ji Yuhua to answer the question. Thank you for the question. Since the outbreak, the insurance sector has been discharging their corporate social responsibilities to donate insurance policies for healthcare professionals. For the whole sector, a total of 11.58 trillion yuan of insurance policies have been donated to healthcare professionals, and the CBRC has issued 2 notices to encourage insurance companies to make such donations and have conducted exemptions of the insurance product types for such donations. At the same time, it is also asking the insurance companies to standardize operations, including contracting, signature of insurance policies, especially lot settlement for the donated insurance policies. After insurance companies make the donations, they comply with CBIRC provisions related to this and are deeming the donated insurance policies as normal insurance policies for loss settlement and claim settlement. In practice, due to the scope of the donated insurance policies, sometimes it is difficult to contact the healthcare professionals, and the insurance companies find it difficult to find the name list, or the health professionals found it difficult to sign their names immediately. Therefore, insurance companies and related parties should enhance information exchange. At the same time, in light of the actual circumstances, CBIRC have relaxed the regulatory requirements. For example, for these insurance policies, we can allow a certain time period for recourse to address these questions. PNC insurance companies settled 240 billion yuan, including 6.57 million yuan for healthcare professionals, 750 person times. For donated insurance companies, 33.2 million, accounting for 64%, and for frontier healthcare professionals, it involves 338 personnels. Total loss settled was 30.78 million yuan. So about your question related to the honoring of the insurance company's commitment, you can see they're honoring it well. According to the central government and the Central Party Committee, we have been asking insurance companies to play their role in economic and social stability. Insurance is a sector that is I for everyone and everyone for me. You should not only have something extra for people, but more importantly, you should help people that are most in need. Therefore, to safeguard the rights and interests of the consumers is the incumbent responsibility of CBIRC. Will strengthen the oversight over insurance companies' behavior to ensure standardized operations and timely settlement of loss and claims. Thank you. Third row on the left, and the journalist in black. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm from China Media Group. Due to the epidemic, we know that some bond issuing corporate bond issuing companies are encountering difficulties, will that increase the default rate of the debt market? I would like to ask Mr. Peng Lifeng to answer the question. Thank you for your question. Since the outbreak of the epidemic, in a short period of time, it has exerted some impact on our economy, and some enterprises' revenue-generating capacity and profit-making capacity has been affected, affecting their debt. We conducted assessment which shows the impact on the overall market is not big due to the following reasons. First of all, these enterprises affected by the epidemic, for example, food and catering industry and tourism industry, their overall financing size is not very big, only about 1% of the total financing market. So these enterprises will not increase the default rate of the debt market. And second, since the outbreak, the PBOC has been conducting counter-cyclical regulation to make adjustments or a regulation in anticipation of the forthcoming situations. For a 1 year and 3 year term interest rate, it has been reduced by 30 base points compared with before Spring Festival. So this is helpful for enterprises to honor their debt. For financial institutions and enterprises affected, we have also organized a green passage to increase the efficiency of bond issuance, their issuance, to avoid increasing the default rate. Thirdly, although the debt size is big, but the growth rate compared with last year was low, especially the size of debt that have reached the maturity date for the private sector is not increasing, but rather declining. Of course, we are also paying close attention to the financial conditions of such enterprises and taking measures in light of the market conditions to help these affected enterprises to survive the difficulties. Thank you. On the right-hand side, the third row, the gentleman over there. And from Phoenix TV, currently some financial institutions are providing online non-contact or contactless services like using mobile phones, but for some information review, you need to go on site for approval. But to control the risks, how can we do? How can you do to control the risks of financial institutions? Will that also mean opportunities for online business? I would like to ask Mr. Ye Yanfei to answer the question. Thank you for your question. To do a good job at online business, first of all, financial institutions need to increase their strengths in utilizing fintech, like making more investments in R&D. Small financial institutions may lack such ability to invest. Therefore, on the precondition of having clear rights and obligations, they can cooperate with fintech companies with good reputation to increase their capacity for fintech support for customers. Also, they need to revise their business regulations and the procedures to adapt to the needs of consumers for online business. And thirdly, financial institutions also need to increase interactions with other sectors. For example, for data sharing, Taizhou Bank has a very famous practice for SMEs. Water tariff, gas tariff, water meter, gas meter, and electricity meter. So based on the consumption amount of water, gas, and electricity, through online interactions, banks can have immediate inquiry into such information to save the trouble of going to the site. For example, business license. If the government can issue electronic business license and have online connection with the banks, then banks will be able to have online inquiry into the handling and procedure and track the status of a business license of enterprises.
For example, the mortgage of real estate in the bank. We call it as the certificates. And if you can have the online registration and join the registration office with the banks and provide online services, that will make it more convenient, and people do not need to go to the registration office. So it is really important to have information sharing and create synergy. Furthermore, we need to improve the joint recognition for the electronic version or copies of the certificates, the business license. They should also be recognized as compliant with the laws and the regulations. So our regulatory efforts should be kept in line with the real situation. I think it is fair to say that the epidemic has given us a chance to develop the e-based or electronic-based services. Previously, we have the online shopping, and now in the future, with such electronic platforms, we will be able to gain access to the business operation about the businesses, and we will be able to see clearly who are the best performers while who are not doing so well, and also improve our services provided to the businesses. So I think for the financial institutions, the epidemic actually also brings us an opportunity. For the regulators, this is also a time for us to encourage financial innovation and adopt information technology to facilitate the growth of the financial sector and improve the services we provide. So the epidemic has pushed forward the adoption of fintech. Thank you. Let's continue. On the right, on the fourth row, the third reporter. Thank you. From China Daily. My question is for DDG Peng from PBOC. Some businesses used to produce garments and vehicles, but now, responding to the central government's encouragement, they are shifting to the production of PPEs like facial masks. So what are the supportive measures the government has adopted to encourage such business transition? Thank you for your question. Indeed, previously these companies or businesses did not produce the medical supplies or PPEs. Their business transition is conducive to the efforts against the epidemic, so we believe we should provide financial support to them. For these companies, we have three suggestions. First, they can study the number 5 financial policy document to see if they are eligible to get the earmarked financial support. If yes, they can apply to the financial regulators, and once they are included in the supporting list, they will be able to enjoy such earmarked special fundings. Secondly, if they cannot be eligible for such earmarked fundings, according to number 29 policy document, they should also be able to enjoy some other financial support. And thirdly, if they cannot be eligible to get financial support from the government, they can also apply for the commercial banks, apply to the commercial banks to get financial support. I hope this can address their difficult access to finance. Let's continue on the left, on the second row. Thank you. From Hunan Satellite TV. As far as I know, confined by the non-performing loan indicator, some local banks are reluctant to extend credits or give lendings to the SMEs. Is it possible to give them more flexibility in this regard? Thank you for your question. To mobilize the local banks, it has become a very important approach because we need the frontline efforts, the frontline medical professionals, the frontline bankers, or the frontline banking institutions. So it is indeed necessary and important to mobilize these local financial institutions. For the financial institutions, they should get more power delegation from their superiors because they are the frontline outlets and they know the real situation best. Second, in terms of the performance indicators, indeed the frontline officers, banking officers, are having a lot of performance indicators to satisfy, and at the moment, the top priority is to support the SMEs to resume the work and production. So in terms of the performance indicator, there should be some adjustment. Thirdly, there should be more resources provided to the frontline banking institutions or banking officers. To fight a war, we need the logistics supplies, and the resources for the front line should be guaranteed. Fourthly, there should be accountability exemption so that they can be immune from the potential punishment. I think in this regard, it is decided by whether the business is an integrated business or business of integrity, and also whether the lendings the businesses receive are soundly utilized and there are no malpractices in this regard. So long as the businesses are using the earmarked funding appropriately, the local banking officers should be exempted from any potential punishment. Moreover, the regulators should be more flexible and should be more tolerant with some of the flexibilities. And even if there is non-performing loans, just as I have said, we have appropriate provisioning, and we can allow the financial institutions to write off some bad debts. So in all, we need to mobilize the financial institutions at the grassroots level to support the resumption of work by the SMEs or small businesses. Last two questions.
Left side, fifth row, the journalist on the side. Hello, I'm from a China Media Group. Because of the epidemic, many enterprises' debt servicing capability is declining. In light of this situation, will China's financial markets be able to resist the pressure, and China's financial markets will be able to maintain stability? I would like to ask Mr. Peng Lifeng to answer the question. Thank you for the question. We think the current financial system of China overall is stable since 2018. Financial system has cooperated with different sectors and departments under the overall arrangements of the central government. The macro leverage ratios fast increasing trend has been curbed effectively. Currently, about 250% is the current level. For some sector, for example, internet finance, shadow banking, etc., these important financial risks have seen good progress in rectifications, and China's overall financial risk is shrinking. Since the outbreak of the novel coronavirus disease, COVID-19, we noticed that some industries, for example, food and catering industry, tourism, and transport, have been affected greatly. And now, PBOC and CBRC have released policies for the existing stock of debt of enterprises, which will be sustained, and they will not be reported as delayed debt. And in terms of the lending risks, there will also be favorable policies. We will pay attention to such situations and make timely assessment so that we can take them into consideration in mitigating and addressing the risks. I'm sure that you have noticed since the outbreak, China's financial markets, including debt market, stock market, and foreign exchange market, have been operating stably. Overall, the financial institutions' performance is quite stable. You may find that the financial system of China, in terms of the resilience to impact from outside, is being increased. If you look at the operations of the financial markets, you'll see that. And investors think that this epidemic is only temporary. It will not affect the overall fundamentals of the economy, which will have very good trend after the outbreak. And after the outbreak is finished, there will be compensatory growth of the economy. So that is why we have the confidence. In future, PBOC will work together with other authorities to accomplish the tasks related to mitigation of the risks, to ensure the financial system is stable and will not let the bottom line be broken. That is to ensure the stability and no systematic risks. Let's continue with the questions. Thank you, Mr. Morita. I'm from Economic Daily. In order to cope with the outbreak, insurance companies, how do insurance companies have claim settlement? And what is the future trend of regulation for insurance companies? I would like to ask Mr. Ji Yihua to answer the question. Thank you for your question. Since the outbreak, insurance companies are following regulatory requirements to take multi-pronged measures for claim settlement, mainly three aspects. First of all, faster claim settlement. The insurance companies have established a green passage to have 724 telephone lines and streamline the procedure for claim settlement. For insurance company policies of people who are affected by the epidemic, there will be dedicated people for their claim settlement. We're also using internet and mobile apps, that is online lines for claim settlement, to streamline the requirements of physical documents to have a one-stop claim settlement. According to statistics, for most of the customers, after they filed the claim settlement application, a claim can be settled on the same day. Most quickly, it can be settled within 5 minutes. I can give you an example. One of our customers went to Thailand for tourism and infected with novel coronavirus. When he was in hospital, he filed the claim settlement application. Insurance company got in touch with the hospital in Thailand, and after receiving the claim settlement application, the insurance company sent the letter of guarantee for international claim settlement after receiving the required information from the patient. Second, convenient claim settlement. Since this is a special period of time, more than 100 insurance companies have cancelled the threshold amount for claim settlement for those patients in designated hospitals. The patients either got an amount of compensation or a supporting amount. Thirdly, insurance companies are expanding insurance responsibilities. COVID-19 is incorporated into accident insurance and health insurance. Up to now, 67 P&C companies have extended the scope of insurance responsibilities and developed more than 60 new products. 70 life insurance companies, while not increasing the insurance premium, has expanded the scope of insurance policies or insurance responsibilities to cover COVID-19. In regard to the timeliness of claim settlement, both the patients and the insurance companies and the regulators hope it can be done very quickly. Different insurance companies have different information systems and business processes. Therefore, the promised time limit for claim settlement is different. And if you want to know the information, you can call the telephone hotlines of the insurance companies. Once the regulating authority find illegal activities in claim settlement, will bring those people to liability according to law to ensure the rights and interests of consumers. We will continue to encourage insurance companies to expand the scope of insurance responsibilities and develop products suited to the needs of the customers. It will strengthen oversight so that insurance companies can implement very well the claim settlement and provide higher quality insurance products for consumers. In a nutshell, we hope that insurance companies can be responsible insurance companies and take into consideration the overall needs of epidemic prevention and control. That's all for the Q&A session. Next, I would like to ask Dr. Wei Wenbin to share with us knowledge related to health. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Once people become old, organs of people will begin to age, and eyes are one of the organs that will have aging problem the earliest possible, like cataract and glaucoma, etc. They can affect people's health. And for the elderly staying at home, how do we ensure that we love our eyes and protect our eyes? First of all, pay attention to eye health. Do not lie in bed when reading. And every time when you do reading, you should have a rest after every 1 hour. You can cover your eyelids with your hands and have massage for the eyes. And you can also look at distant places through the window. And if you're wearing reading glasses, you have reached the age of wearing reading glasses. When you watch TV or do reading, you should also wear the reading glasses. At the same time, you should use your hands to have massage for your eyelids. And then the size of your heads, two sides of your heads, two sides of the temple of your head. Avoid rubbing your eyes hard, and avoid washing your eyes with flowing water to avoid inflammation. For people with chronic disease like diabetes or hypertension, every day you should measure blood pressure and blood glucose to make sure that these two indicators are stable to avoid risks related to eyes. Pay attention to keep a very peaceful mind and avoid sharp fluctuations of emotions to avoid glaucoma.
Second, take good rest. Constantly massage your eyes and your face 10 minutes a time and several times a day. And also, you can take the eye care exercises frequently or close your eyes and take a break. Such eye closing break can have your eyes take a break and also your brain a break. Also, watch the green plants because the green plants can help reduce the negative health impact caused by the ultraviolet. Also, pay attention to nutrition intake. Try to take more nutritious food like the beans, the cauliflowers, as they contain vitamin B1 and they are good for the elderly. Vegetables, fruits, carrots also contain a lot of fiber and carotenoids, as well as vitamin A and E. They are also good for the elderly and can be conducive to the overall health, especially the night vision of the elderly. Try to take more protein-rich food like the lean meat, the milk, and etc. They can also be very helpful to help you get rid of the eye tiredness. Firstly, the elderly are risk populations for eye diseases. During the epidemic, if unfortunately you have the eye disease, do you need to go to the hospital? Well, for eye diseases, they can also be divided into chronic and acute types. For those chronic ones or minor ones, you don't need to go to the ophthalmologist immediately. For example, the gradual progression of vision loss or glaucoma or other eye diseases that can be soundly controlled by medication and no obvious deterioration of the vision, then you don't need to go to the ophthalmologist.